The offset account versus investing debate has one answer that almost every financial influencer gives you, and it's wrong for at least half the people watching. Not because the maths is bad, because the maths only works if you put your own numbers into it. And most people never do. I covered the broad comparison in a previous video, the tax equivalent return formula, the 2026 rate environment, the after-tax numbers. A lot of you watched it. And the most common comment I kept seeing was some version of, okay, but what does this mean for MY situation? So that's what this video is. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which strategy wins based on your income, your loan type, your risk tolerance, and your time horizon. No generic answer. Your answer. Here's the uncomfortable starting point. The offset versus investing question isn't one question. It's 4 different questions depending on who's asking. And the person who should absolutely be maxing their offset is sitting right next to the person who should absolutely be investing, and they are both nodding along to the same generic advice. According to the ABS, the median Australian household income in 2025 to 26 sits at around $112,000 combined. The median outstanding mortgage balance across owner-occupiers is approximately $478,000. Those are the averages, but the range is enormous. They are single owners on $65,000 with a $400,000 loan. They are dual-income households on $220,000 with a $900,000 mortgage. They are investors with multiple properties and deductible debt. They are retirees within 5 years of accessing super. Same question, completely different answers. And that's exactly what we are going to pull apart today. I want to start with a variable that changes everything, and almost nobody leads with it. Most people assume this is purely a math problem. Higher return wins. Run the numbers. Pick a side. Done. Here's what nobody tells you. The single biggest variable in the comparison isn't the interest rate or the share market return. It's your marginal tax rate. And your marginal tax rate is determined by your income, which means the right answer to this question is literally different depending on how much you earn. Let me show you exactly what I mean. The tax equivalent return formula, which converts your offset's guaranteed return into a pre-tax equivalent, so you can compare it fairly against investing, is your mortgage rate divided by 1 minus your marginal tax rate. At a 6.5% mortgage rate, here's what that looks like across different income brackets. If you're earning under $45,000, your marginal tax rate, including Medicare, is 21%. Your tax equivalent offset return is 6.5 divided by 0.79. That's 8.2%. An ETF portfolio returning 9 to 10% before tax could potentially beat that, after accounting for CGT discount and franking credits. For lower income earners, investing has a genuine mathematical edge. If you're earning between $45,000 and $120,000, your marginal rate is 34.5%. The tax equivalent return jumps to 9.9%. Now you need your investments to reliably deliver close to 10% after fees, before tax, to come out ahead. That's possible over long periods, but it's not guaranteed, and it requires time. If you're earning above $135,000, your marginal rate hits 47%, including Medicare. The tax equivalent offset return at 6.5% becomes 12.3%. That's an extraordinarily high hurdle for any investment to clear consistently. For high earners in 2026, the offset isn't a conservative option. It may genuinely be the optimal one. And this is where it gets interesting, because most people making this decision have never run this calculation for their own income bracket. They've just absorbed the general advice and applied it to a situation it wasn't designed for. Now let's talk about the variable that almost nobody factors in, and that the first offset video touched on but didn't fully unpack. Loan type. There are 2 completely different versions of this question, depending on whether your mortgage is on your home or on an investment property. And conflating them is one of the most expensive financial mistakes Australians make. For owner-occupier debt, your own home, the interest you pay is not tax deductible. Every dollar of interest you pay comes from after-tax income. In that environment, the offset account is genuinely powerful. You are saving a non-deductible expense. The ATO has no claim on a dollar you never paid. That's where the tax equivalent return formula we've been using applies directly. For investment property debt, the entire logic inverts. The interest on an investment loan is tax deductible, which means that by offsetting your investment loan, you're not just saving interest, you're reducing deductible expense. And reducing a deductible expense costs you at tax time. Here's the maths on that. If you're on a 34.5% marginal rate, and you have $100,000 in an offset against an investment property loan at 6.5%, you're saving $6,500 in interest annually. But that $6,500 would have been a tax deduction worth $2,242 to you at your marginal rate. Your net saving after losing that deduction is $4,258, not $6,500. Your effective offset return on an investment loan isn't 6.5%. It's closer to 4.3%. Suddenly the maths looks completely different. A diversified ETF portfolio returning 9% before tax, even after CGT and income tax, looks significantly more attractive against a 4.3% effective return. For investors with negatively geared property, keeping money in the offset against the investment loan is often the worst of both worlds. You reduce your deduction and sacrifice your investment, compounding at the same time. The right structure for most property investors, and I'll stress this is general information, not personal advice, is to keep the investment loan fully drawn, maximize the deductible interest, and invest the surplus into growth assets separately. Or, if you're structuring carefully, to use debt recycling, converting your non-deductible home loan into deductible investment debt over time. I'll come back to that in a moment. Let's now talk about time horizon, the third variable that changes everything. The share market does not deliver 9% per year every year. It delivers roughly 9 to 10% per year on average over long periods, with significant volatility in between. In any given 3 to 5 year window, you might get 25%, or you might get minus 18%. The ASX dropped meaningfully in 2022. Global markets were volatile through 2023. Anyone who invested their offset money in an ETF in early 2022 was sitting on paper losses while their mortgage rate was rising simultaneously. That combination, negative portfolio returns plus higher repayments, is psychologically and financially brutal for most people. The offset account, by contrast, delivers its return every single day. No volatility, no down years, no statements that make your stomach drop. The money is there, accessible, performing its quiet arithmetic on your loan balance without drama. According to Vanguard Australia's 2025 index chart, a $10,000 investment in Australian shares in January 2000 was worth approximately $70,000 by January 2025, a compound return of around 8.2% per annum before tax. That's a strong long-run outcome. But within that 25-year window, there were 2 periods of 40% plus drawdowns. If your time horizon doesn't extend comfortably beyond 7 to 10 years, the volatility risk is real, and the comparison with the offset isn't as favorable as the long-run average suggests. The rule of thumb I use for this decision, and this is not financial advice, it's a framework, is if the money might need to be accessible within 5 years for any reason, the offset wins by default. Not because the maths always supports it. Because the risk-adjusted return, accounting for real-world life events like job changes, health issues, family expenses, or property decisions, almost always does. Let's put this all together practically. 4 scenarios, 4 different answers. Scenario 1. You're an owner-occupier owning $95,000. Your mortgage rate is 6.5%, and you have a 20-year horizon. Your tax-equivalent offset return is 9.9%. Long-term ETF returns hover around that level before tax. This is genuinely close. A split strategy. Some in offset as a cash buffer, the rest invested regularly into a low-cost ETF via Pearl or ComSec, makes more sense than going all in on either side. The mix that makes sense depends on your personal risk tolerance, not a formula. Scenario 2. You're a high-income earner at $160,000 with a $700,000 owner-occupier mortgage at 6.5%. Your tax-equivalent return is 12.3%. Max the offset. The mathematics of a 12.3% guaranteed, tax-free, risk-free return is almost impossible to beat consistently in any market environment. Direct investment only makes sense here if you have surplus well beyond your offset capacity, and even then, salary sacrificing into super at 15% tax first is worth considering before adding to a taxable investment portfolio. Scenario 3. You're an investor with a $500,000 investment loan and $100,000 sitting in your offset against that loan. Move that money. Your effective offset return on a deductible loan is closer to 4 to 4.5%. Invest the $100,000 into a diversified ETF portfolio, VAS, VGS, or a simple two-fund split, or explore debt recycling with your accountant. Pay down your non-deductible home loan and redraw for investment purposes, converting your home equity into deductible investment debt gradually over time. Scenario 4. You're within 5 years of retirement, income dropping, super balance near preservation. This is where the offset becomes almost universally superior. Your investment time horizon is short. The downside of a market correction is high. The guaranteed, accessible return of the offset is exactly what you need as you approach the transition. Capital preservation beats compounding optimization at this stage. For those exploring debt recycling, the ATO's website outlines the rules clearly, and a fee-for-service financial advisor or accountant who understands investment structures is worth the cost here. Perla's tools, Vanguard's managed funds, and Australian Super's high-growth option for any salary sacrifice component are all worth having on your radar regardless of which path you take. Here's the cost of the generic answer. The cost of always invest or always offset applied without running your own numbers. A high-income owner on $160,000 who invests $100,000 instead of using the offset, earning 9% pre-tax, pays tax at 47% on dividends and eventually on capital gains. Their after-tax return might be 5.5 to 6%. Their offset was offering the equivalent of 12.3%. The gap over 10 years on $100,000 is approximately $80,000 in foregone wealth. $80,000 lost not to bad investments, but a correct-sounding advice applied to the wrong situation. An investor who keeps $100,000 in the offset against a negatively geared property loan loses a deduction, reduces their tax refund, and earns a 4.3% effective return while the market delivers 9%. That's a conservative $50,000 opportunity cost over a decade, and a tax refund that quietly shrank year after year without them understanding why. The right answer to this question has always been the same. It's yours. Not a YouTuber's. Not a forum's. Yours, based on your income, your loan type, your timeline, and the actual numbers run against your marginal tax rate. The framework is all here. The calculation takes 10 minutes. The cost of not running, it accumulates every single month. Before we go, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit subscribe now so you never miss when we break down something the average Australian isn't being told about their money. And drop your answer in the comments. Based on your income and loan type, which side of this debate do you actually land on? And did the numbers surprise you? I read everyone.